And welcome to today's edition of Dr. Carole's Couch. I'm your psychiatrist host, Dr. Carole Lieberman. Well, today we're going to be talking about sex, lies, and criminal trials. Now, I know you won't want to miss a minute of it. The two hottest trials today that are making headlines are P. Diddy for racketeering and prostitution and sex trafficking, and Bryan Kohberger for the murder of four Idaho college students. So today's guests will be sharing their perspectives on these and other newsmaking crimes and trials. Now, my first guest is Brooke Urick. She is, or she was, the spokesperson for seekingarrangement.com. And she is in the process of writing a book exposing an expose of what really goes on behind the scenes in sex trafficking. And what's kind of what we just realized before the 2 minutes before we started was I had an old email from her from 2014 when she was still working for seekingarrangement.com. And this email was promoting, she was the public relations manager, and it was promoting a campaign that they were having, that seekingarrangement.com was having, that was called Happy 18th Birthday, Meet Your New Daddy. And of course, the purpose of it was to get 18-year-olds to sign up for seekingarrangement.com. And it's a good thing I realized because I was thinking to myself, now, why, if she is the public relations manager for Seeking Arrangement, why is she going to talk about how terrible it is, how terrible sex trafficking is, and all the things that went on behind P. Diddy's trial and P. Diddy himself, and when actually isn't Seeking Arrangement the same thing? Well, maybe not quite as bad as P. Diddy, but but the same in the same column. So fortunately, I mean, it's interesting because, Brooke, what this means is that back in 2014, when you sent this to me, I had put it in my in my emails, in a mailbox on my emails, where for future guests. So it took 9 years, but here you are.
Well, thank you so much for finally having me. I've been waiting.
Okay. Well, tell us about this. How you, first of all, what made you start working for Seeking Arrangement, how that was, and how now you are feeling so strongly about it that you're coming out against it.
Well, thanks for that lovely introduction and for the backstory there. Oh my gosh, my heart dropped when I remembered that horrible pitch, Happy 18th birthday, meet your new daddy. It's absolutely sick. And I actually talk about it specifically in my book titled Wink, Wink, Nudge, Nudge, Sexual Exploits and Secrets from Inside a Sugar Daddy website. It's about my time working there for the company and my own coming of age during that time. I began working for the company because I was actually on the website. I joined the website initially because they were doing a reality show casting, and they thought I was going to be a reality star. So I joined the website, did the casting. They have called me immediately, and I said, "Well, I don't have any experience, you know." And they said, "Oh, it's fine. It's more of an acting gig, so just come on down." And it was a crock of crap. It was not anything that was an actual reality show. It was basically me lying on camera, and they pegged me as someone who was willing to lie on camera and who maybe had her moral compass a bit eroded because I was living in Las Vegas. And in Las Vegas, things are a bit different for women, young girls especially. You kind of are a commodity and you're partying with rich guys and you really don't think too much of it. And that's what I thought I would find on the website, but I was sorely mistaken. And during my
Wait, wait,
5 years,
wait, wait. What did they have you lie about?
oh, that time, it was my experience on the website. So, like I said, when I did the reality show casting
I
initially, I
mean, what
joined.
was, did the reality show ever happen?
No, there was no reality show. It was a one-off show for the Travel Channel, and my interview never aired because it was so terrible because they were feeding me lines and just like telling me what to say and like making me lie, which was actually then what I ended up doing for the company. Is I was casting girls, women, young girls, to lie on camera. and talk about their experience as a sugar baby, say how great their experience was. But the reality was that most women, young girls who were joining this website, were routinely abused, victimized, preyed upon by, of course, older, richer, and men who, the imbalance of power is obviously there initially, but the way the mechanics of the site and the way the product is designed and the way the marketing is run, it all adds to that imbalance of power and makes it to where victims are completely voiceless. And so I was a victim, and I continue to work for the company. And the things I learned were just really terrible. And I couldn't live with myself if I allowed the emails that I went out to live as truth, like the one that you got back in 2014. So that's what I'm doing, is informing people of how these websites really run. And the fact that I know anecdotally that people like P. Diddy, and I think P. Diddy's associates and procurement people themselves used this website to procure the young, sometimes underage girls, to then trap them into sex trafficking.
So, did you ever, were you ever a sugar baby? Did you have a sugar daddy?
Yeah, that's why I joined the website initially, and I joined because of the reality show. They actually offered me a job in the PR department, but I wasn't done with college yet, so I wanted to try my luck as a sugar baby. And what I found out is that most of the men on the website are married, and what I wanted, of course, is a rich boyfriend that would hopefully turn into my husband. But that's not possible when most of the men are married already. So that took me a while to learn. I write about that in the book as well. But yeah, I did experience what you might call a sugar baby situation, in which I was assaulted. So, you get in these situations where consent is implied and there's money in your bank account and you are wearing the dress that he bought you. And it doesn't really matter whether you say yes or no, because what am I to do? Who are they going to believe? Am I supposed to run down the hallway like Cassie and try and run away? Well, as you can see from the recent trial, not even that will get these men caught. So that's what I'm trying to explain to young girls, because that's the only, obviously these men aren't getting held accountable. So the only way to make a difference and to help people is to inform the young, sometimes underage girls and men, boys too, of what's really going on this website.
So, you worked as the PR person, public relations manager for Seeking Arrangement. And and you also had the benefit of being able to sort of have first choice, right, of the sugar daddies.
Yeah, I had admin access, and I write about my findings, what I found on the back end in the book, and it was never good. But yeah, I was able to. If a man messaged me on the website, I was able to go into his account and look up his real email address and look up if he had an address listed for his credit card. I couldn't see like any credit card details or anything like that, but I could see the address and maybe his name, so I'd throw that into Zillow and see what I got. But yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, I mean, even then, I was still, routinely preyed upon, and ended up realizing that it is not a website for savory individuals. There is no Prince Charming on this website. It is a website for men who want to discreetly pay for sex from young, sometimes underage girls.
So, but did you have men who were paying, like, did you get your college tuition paid from?
No, no, I'm still in debt actually for my college tuition. So if there's any sponsors out there that want to pay off my debt, please do so, because no, the sugar daddy thing does not work that way. It's that was a load of crap that we pitched to people, and maybe some of your listeners remember the pitches are the news stories about college sugar babies getting their tuitions paid for by wealthy benefactors. Well, that almost never happened. There's maybe like 0.1% of users that actually experience anything close to that. Most of the people are just getting victimized and beguiled into unspeakable things. That's what usually happens. And no, I didn't get my college tuition paid for. I mean, I got some nice gifts, and I got a few grand, but no, it was nowhere near that much.
Uh-huh. Um, and did you ever meet anybody who you kind of started to fall in love with?
Yeah, yeah, I do detail that in the book as well. I did fall in love with a sugar daddy who told me he was leaving his wife, but then he ended up getting her pregnant. So we weren't able to go on the trip that we had planned, and I ended up going by myself because,
Uh-huh.
he was married, which is the majority of men on these websites are married and they're cheating on their wives.
Huh. So it was heartbreaking.
It was really heartbreaking. It was very sad, yeah, because I truly believed that he was gonna leave the wife for me because, of course, he told me that, but at 25, I think, you think you wanna believe. I mean, everyone wants to believe what they wanna believe, but especially when you're that young and he's so much older, you really don't understand until you're older as well, what's exactly going on and the ways that they can manipulate you, just having the wisdom of age.
So is seekingarrangement.com still around?
It is still around. They go by seeking.com now, and they've completely scrubbed the internet of their previous public image mentioning sugar baby, sugar daddy. They don't do any of that anymore, in my opinion, and it's my belief that they do that to obfuscate justice and to avoid
That they
being
what? That they do it what?
to obfuscate justice and avoid being criminally prosecuted for sex trafficking, which is, when I was working for the company back in 2018, there was this website called Backpage that was shut down. I'm not
Yeah,
sure if you remember
yeah.
Backpage. Yeah. For those of you who don't remember, it was an overt classifieds website for prostitution, and it was contributing greatly to underage sex trafficking. And at the time, there were these bills going through the Senate and the House. It was the on Allow Victims to Fight Online Sex Trafficking Act, and another one that was kind of similar. The anagrams are FOSTA SESTA, and those were going through Congress. And basically, that is a provision to Section 230, which of course kind of governs the whole internet and makes it to where websites are not responsible for the content that third party users post, in a criminally liable kind of way. But that changed in 2018 with this new law, and it shut Backpage down in effect. And it says that websites that facilitate, assist, or support sex trafficking or prostitution are no longer covered by Section 230. And when that happened, internally at Seeking, we were very worried. It was my belief back in 2018 that that litigation was going to shut the website down. So, here we are almost, a decade later, nearly 8 years later, and the website is still around. And I believe that it's still coercing and luring young girls into lives of prostitution and sex trafficking.
Well, what does seeking say that they offer? Seeking what? Seeking like just relationships, like any kind of a
Oh,
like Match.com?
well, now they're all about, quote, hypergamy, which is the act of a woman marrying someone of a higher socioeconomic status. So that's what they claim now. But the irony, in my opinion, is most of the men are married. So how are you going to marry a man who's already married unless you're in, a different country or some polygamist, whatever? Like it just doesn't make any sense. But it's that's the title of my book is Wink, Wink, Nudge, Nudge, because it's a wink, nudge. We all know what's going on here, but everyone's just going to say that that's not what's going on. And it's really interesting because back in December, there was that Matt Gaetz um, House ethics report that came out. I don't know if you got a gander at that, but it mentions seeking arrangement probably 20
Uh-huh.
times by name and details explicitly how the website facilitates underage sex trafficking. And, that's a federal document. I stand by everything that's in that document, and yet the website is still around. So I don't know. I don't know. It really begs the question, what is going on?
Now, are you worried? I mean, when you were hired, um, and you had to sign a contract, didn't it say something like you're not supposed to tell what goes on here?
Absolutely. I did sign an NDA, and I talk a little bit about that on my YouTube channel. And yeah, certainly, they could come after me legally, and they're actually trying to do some legal mind games with me as we speak. But luckily, I have not been charged or brought any charges against me, lawsuits against me, civil cases, because, in my opinion, this website is facilitating sex trafficking on a criminal scale. And if you don't believe me, you can check out that house ethics report into Matt Gaetz, because they detail it really clearly. And that was actually during the time that I was working there is when that report is about that
Oh,
time
that's
period.
interesting.
So I don't really have to go very far to inform people that this is a criminal website committing criminal activity. And fortunately for me, Nevada has some really awesome whistleblower protections. So I
Mhm.
hopefully will be covered legally. But if it does come out that I have a defamation case or something like that, fortunately, I'm telling the truth. And a
Uh-huh.
great defense against defamation is the truth.
Right.
And if, my case were to be proven, and that they have to prove in court that what I'm saying is true, then that proves criminal activity. And I just don't think they want to go to discovery with me and have to prove the criminal activity, which we all know is happening. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, everyone. Like, we know it's happening. Same thing with, Diddy and Epstein. Like, we all know it happened. So you can wink, wink, nudge, nudge all you want, but the arc of the moral universe is long and it bends towards justice. So I'm just fighting the good fight here. And I really appreciate you giving me a platform to talk about that.
So did you watch, well, I was gonna say, did you watch the Diddy trial? I mean, I know that there were no cameras in the courtroom, but were you following it in the media? What do you think about it?
I was following it as much as I can, and it is just an example of how we need to change and enforce these laws. Because the fact is, he was not guilty of, I guess, what they were charging him with, or but there was not evidence to suggest, what he was being charged with, because the things that he did were civil, in my opinion, to Cassie. Like, he was obviously doing horrible things to her, but federal sex trafficking charge is something different than just doing horrible things. You can be a completely horrible person, and that can be proven. But if you're not proven of the charge, like, that's how the legal system works. So, I mean, everyone knows who he is now, but I don't know that justice has been served in that case.
Um, well, do you know anything in particular? You said you were starting to say about how you think that he and his people who worked for him were using seeking arrangements.
Yeah, and I've heard that anecdotally from a few people personally, that they were at Diddy parties where there was an unsavory acts going on. They were also users of seeking arrangement. So, I mean, I don't have any proof that that's what happened, but I do
Uh-huh.
know from lots of stories. And also, there's like some YouTube videos, like Soft White Underbelly, and I don't particularly like his channel because I don't like it very much. But he interviews some different prostitutes, underage prostitutes, who specifically mention seeking arrangement by name. And then they also, in other parts of their interview, mention being held against their will at a Diddy party. So I'm not saying that I know for a fact that these people are using seeking arrangement. What I do know for a fact is that the website is used to facilitate sex trafficking. And again, you can check out that House ethics report if you want more information on how exactly that's happening. But the website is intentionally anonymous. So back when I was working for the company, they encouraged anonymity at every corner of the website. And, when I was 21, I thought that was for me, was for my protection. And
Mhm.
what I began to understand is that that is for the protection of predators and abusers, because they are no longer attached to their identity. They don't have to have any identity on the website. And that's by design, again, to obfuscate justice. There's so many things, and I detail a lot of this in the book, the specifics and
So,
how they
so
try and obfuscate.
do you oh, first of all, were there any women while you were there? Were there any women who were sexually assaulted by their arranged daddies, their sugar daddies, and who like reported it to the police?
Certainly. Yeah, it happened all the time. There were member reports on the website, so you could report any member. But just to clarify, they touted themselves as a dating website. So everyone arranged and set up their own dates. There was never any money exchanged on the website. The website is merely the facilitation platform for the interactions and meetings between the people. And then they have the agency to then do what they want. And that's what the website leans on, to remove themselves from legal liability. But yes, that would happen all the time. And unfortunately, the only way the website would give out the personal identifying information of the perpetrators is if there was a subpoena issued. So a girl, and this would happen nearly daily, they would email us, they would call us, they would try to get a hold of us, usually in the PR department, because there wasn't many people to get a hold of by phone. And they would say, this man R-worded me, this man did this to me, what do I do? And we would say, well, you have to file a police report. And of course, the girl who may or may not be engaged in solicitation, and doesn't necessarily trust the police or want to go to the police, probably wouldn't go to the police. And that's one of the things that the website counted on, that these women are impoverished, destitute, they don't have the legal resources like these men do. And furthermore, I know of instances in which the women would go to the police And the police would say, well, what were you doing on a site like that? Were you soliciting? And then in some cases, the girls actually have to sign away their rights to press charges against their abuser in order to avoid being legally prosecuted for solicitation themselves. So
And
there's
it
a
was considered solicitation just if they became a member of the site?
no, no, the website would basically say that that wasn't allowed on the website. And that's, again, with the wink, wink, nudge, nudge. There were all these mechanisms in place on the website to say, oh, no, 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 don't do that on the website, and give these men a little slap on the wrist. But of course, that's exactly what's going on. I mean, it is the political strategy of the day, right? Is say that it's not happening to the camera, and then behind closed doors, of course it's happening, and we all know it.
Right. Um, well, when you said just before that there's no money exchange, I mean, don't people have to pay to be a member?
Yeah, the sugar daddy users had to pay per month. I think it was $99 back when I was working for the company, but the girls don't have to pay at all. So sugar babies didn't have to pay at all, which further contributes to the imbalance of power because the website is designed and curated to protect the paying members, because the non-paying members are expendable. So again, it's a really terrible, terrible website. And when I said no money was exchanged, I meant the website itself did not give the girls any money, and the men did not give the site money to then give to the girls. That's not how it worked. The
Uh-huh.
members had to agree upon their own deals or whatever. But a lot of times the men would say they're going to pay the girl and then just not give her any money. And of course, these girls are not pros and they don't see themselves as prostitutes, even though they are willing to be paid for sex, which is a bit of an irony. And so, what is a girl to do if she doesn't get paid for the sex that she was promised? And that happened to me when I was young. So, what am I to do except for kind of dust myself off and pretend it never happened? Because again, what is a girl to do?
Uh-huh. Hmm. So, so do you think what do you think Diddy deserved? What kind of verdict do you think he deserved? Do you think he got the right verdict, or what do you think he should get?
I certainly do. I don't think that they had all the evidence. I think that some of it was hidden or squashed. I think that he was doing a lot behind the scenes, with his power, influence, and money that he maintained even while he was behind bars to obfuscate justice. That is exactly what these people do. They know the charges are coming. Diddy knew for a long time that there were charges coming against him, so he had years to prepare for that and to pay people off and to unalive his ex-wife and all sorts of things. So no, I of course don't think he got what he deserved, but I mean the justice system is flawed, unfortunately.
Um, do you think that he paid off any of the jurors?
Yeah, I do.
And what makes you think that?
Different things I've heard. I'm sort of an internet sleuth. I know I love the Reddit. I like different YouTubers. I love BJ Investigates or That Surprise Witness. There's a bunch of different court reporters who I follow who have been following the case, and there's just so many whispers about these jurors and what exactly is going on. And I think people get exhausted and overwhelmed, and the prosecution knows that or the defense knows that, and so I think they kind of are able to do what they need to do to get the verdict they want.
Well, I thought that that might happen too, actually. Of course, I don't have any proof, but it was kind of interesting about how at the beginning they told the judge that they weren't going to be able to, that there was this juror 25. Do you know anything about juror 25?
I remember, yeah, but you have to remind me.
Juror 25, when they first started deliberating, they sent a note to the judge that they don't think that juror 25 is going to be able to follow the judge's instructions.
Yes, yes, yes.
Do you know anything about who juror 25 was, like what that story was?
No, I don't know anything about that story personally, but I mean, it sounds like they weren't willing to participate in the way that the judge wanted them to. So, I mean, it sounds like they were just going to be a problem.
Well, and it's interesting though. It seems like there were people originally holding out that they didn't when they took the first vote that not everybody was in agreement. And then, the day right before the 4th of July holiday weekend, they all of a sudden all came to an agreement. They all, just agreed to these certain charges. And I mean, I think that people who were holding out gave in because they didn't want to be there for the beginning of the July 4th weekend, which I think is very unfortunate. I think he might have gotten more guilty verdicts if they held their ground.
You have to wonder if that's by design, the timing of things, waiting his
Yes.
right to a speedy trial, kind of waiting these things out, and then it just so happens to be over 4th of July, and the verdict happened so fast. Like, that's insane. Some juries deliberate for weeks. Like, it's crazy to think that it was that fast in such a high-profile case.
And with all these very complicated kinds of decisions, yes, it's very strange.
Yeah, I feel like the coincidences, have to equal correlation at some point.
Well, so Brooke, let me I know your our interview is over is because I have to take a break. Um, but mention the name of your book again.
I'm Brooke Urick, and my book is called Wink, Wink, Nudge, Nudge. And it's about my time working inside a sugar daddy website while also trying my own luck as a sugar baby. And what I learned is these places are terrible websites that help nefarious characters commit illicit activities under the guise of anonymity.
Okay, and when is it coming out?
Oh, it's already out. It came out in
Oh,
October.
oh, cool. Okay.
Yay. I can send you a copy.
Okay, yeah, I would like that. All right. Well, thank you very much for taking your time and being here and sharing your insights, your insider insights about this. And hopefully, we won't have as many people falling for these things like "Happy 18th birthday, meet your new daddy." I must say that was great marketing. I have to give you credit,
Well, thank you.
but but yes, it does not put a girl off on the right foot if she starts doing those kinds of things.
I wish more people would understand that. Thank you so much, Carol, for having me.
You're very welcome. And thank you all. We're going to be taking a break now. And when we come back, when you come back, when we all come back, Dr. John Brady is going to be coming and he's going to be talking about the Kohberger trial and the Mangione trial and all the different trials that are on now and that you are curious about. So stay tuned. And welcome back to Dr. Carole's Couch. I'm your psychiatrist host, Dr. Carole Lieberman. We're talking today about sex, lies, and criminal trials. What else? What else would be juicy to talk about, right? Now, in this second segment, my guest is Dr. John Brady, and he is a licensed forensic psychologist. He's a true crime writer. He's a doctor of criminology, and he's a celebrity analyst. And he's written a number of books. We'll talk about some of those. But first, let's talk about some of the trials and cases that are going on. Dr. Brady mentioned this isn't a trial yet, but it will be if the guy is found alive. Travis Decker. Well, he's the man um, who was devastated by his wife divorcing him and angry that she wouldn't, that they had to share custody, that he wasn't getting more custody. And he took his little girls out, it was his weekend, and he took them to a campsite and he murdered them. He suffocated them. And now he's missing. At least the last thing I've heard is that he's missing, unless Dr. Brady has some new news about it. What do you think about this case?
Well, I think it's like many of these cases, it's similar to like the Kohberger case. What's the etiology? Why did this particular situation arise? I mean, why did this guy do this? I mean, I've had other cases where parents have murdered their children, different kinds of psychological dynamics behind these cases. One where a woman killed her two children because she perceived the world was too miserable for them to really grow up in. So she had broadcast delusions that she received from the TV. With Decker, I guess we have to look at his background. We have to look at his career in the army, in special forces, in Afghanistan, and I guess he was there in country, a little less than a year. But in a little less than a year, a lot of traumatic things can happen to a soldier that could have precipitated acute anxiety disorders or a form of PTSD or even complex PTSD. So we really don't know. We're just kind of hypothesizing, kind of best guessing using psychological background why he would engage in this kind of behavior.
Well, what is your theory?
Well, the as I said, the theory
Do
probably.
you have a theory for him as to why he did it? Because
Yeah,
I'll tell you,
sure.
go ahead.
Yeah, I think it probably ties into a possible PTSD situation where he no longer could tolerate certain things in his life. He began to act out, and the expression was what took place in the killing of his children. Odd as it might seem, it happens before when these people have sort of a diffuse use of violence to solve problems that they can't figure out.
Uh-huh. When they're on the front at war. Well, I have a slightly
That's right.
different. I mean, that's very interesting. I have a slightly different, um, a slightly different take on it. I think, well, first of all, when he went to meet his wife to get the children, when came to her house to pick up the children, I think he gave a few clues. He asked her to take care of his dog for the summer.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, that could be because he was planning on killing the children and I don't know, and he wanted to be free without his dog or something. But it could be, I take it to mean
Yeah.
that he was suicidal. He was very devastated. She was the one who divorced him, and he was living out of a van. He didn't have any much money. He was living out of a van, and I think life just got, his daughters were the love of his life and made his, the sunshine of his life. And without them, as often as he had them before, and without his wife and all that, I think he felt like he had no good reason to live. Now, the thing that
Yeah.
really bugged me was that the wife has said that she didn't have any reason to suspect that he was going to do any harm to the children. Now, he actually, the reason why she divorced him, or at least part of the reason, was because he was violent towards her. Um, not where she thought he would kill anybody, but still. And
Mhm.
so, which is why they didn't give the children 50-50. That's one of the reasons why. Also, the fact that he didn't have any money, that he was living in his van, and and some friends said, people who were neighbors, I think, people who saw him come, especially when he was living there, in the same house,
Mhm.
said that he was very depressed. So this wife, and he was ordered to get into therapy. Um,
Mhm.
and during the divorce, the judge ordered him to get into therapy. Presumably that's how he would get the girls more. But so the wife said, when this first happened, she said, she was so shocked. How could this have happened? I didn't see any warning signs. So I tweeted about it because I was
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
angry. Like, are you blind? You didn't see any signs? He was depressed. He didn't want to be divorced from you. He wanted his girls. He asked you to take care of his dog. He was living in his van. What more do you need?
No job.
No job.
Yeah. Right.
So it's very sad. And so they're still looking for him, right?
Yes, they are. But
I
I agree with you. There certainly can be a substrate of his depression that can help explain the situation. The thing that I'm interested in, what's the original cause of the
Mhm.
depression? And the depression, how did this translate into violence, the violence that he saw in Afghanistan? So obviously, you're absolutely right. He was depressed. He had all the signs and indications of being depressed. The dog was a very actually that's a very sagacious thing to point out, the dog, because the dog was very important to him. he
Right.
he and the dog was abandoned. I think they found the dog at the scene near his white truck, where he left other incriminating evidence. But that's an important part of the pre-suicidal plan that he may have had. How this gets converted into the destruction of the very things, as you said, the light of his life, which were the children. How this gets converted becomes very uh, problematic
Yes. Um,
and sad.
Yes, and as far as where he is now, I have said that, I mean, I think that his plan was to commit suicide, and
Mhm.
having trouble finding him, although it seems like he did cross over the border to Canada. Um, and maybe he could be in the woods in Canada because he has learned those survival skills, or he could be in like a homeless shelter, or he could be in a psychiatric hospital, or he could be lying in
Or
some bush
could be
somewhere.
could be dead too.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
the last possibility is probably the most apt one. I mean, I don't see with the coverage, with his picture everywhere, I don't see him being anywhere that's public, and it would be very hard for him to disguise himself. So I think he's probably eh, committed suicide, buried himself underneath a log somewhere. I mean, I had another case where a person was on the run, that he wanted to kill himself. He buried himself in a forest underneath a log. So
hmm.
maybe Travis chose this situation to escape the pain that he himself felt, that was not perceived by people around him. And as you aptly point out, the wife has to be just kind of daft not to pick up on these signs, that she was hoping, above hope, that things would work out for Travis, but obviously they didn't.
Now let's go to a completely different type of crime. you've written, I guess, a TV series called Silicon Valley Confidential.
Yes. You want to be in it?
Sure.
Okay.
Um,
You could be the
what?
consulting psychiatrist.
Yeah, I do that. I've done
Okay.
that for movies and television shows. Um,
Good.
it says this, but this series is based on real cases from Dr. Brady's 25 years of work in Silicon Valley as a forensic psychologist. And you take your stories. Apparently, there are very interesting kinds of crimes. You make the point that um, well, this show would pull back the curtain to find out why the Silicon Valley's corporate technology billionaires don't want the public to know what's really happening. And there are lots of different
Yeah,
dark crimes there. So tell us about that.
that's right. There are dark crimes there. The series is based on a number of 187 murder cases that I've dealt with. In some cases, had to testify in court. The trailer is a case of a man who was an executive in Silicon Valley. He founded a high tech company. He made almost $1 billion, and suddenly something triggered in his mind, and he murdered one of his employees in Los Altos, California, in Silicon Valley. The rage that he showed when he killed this and dismembered this woman couldn't be figured out. I was called in by the judge to interview him in jail, which I did using 5 or 6 hypnotic sessions
Huh.
to truly understand what his psychodynamics were and why he engaged in this particular behavior. As we drifted into his past, it was very tragic because when he was age 8, his mother, who was dipsomaniacal, drinking, probably schizophrenic, loose associations, probably a pretty crazy lady. She had an argument with him. This is in the trailer. When she was in a drunken stupor, she accused him of something, and then she was ironing and she slammed him in the face with a hot iron.
Oh, well.
This hot iron destroyed his left zygomatic process, his eye, left him with a weepy eye, and thereafter he was kind of this poor individual that couldn't get along with people. He couldn't look anybody in the eye, and he lacked self-confidence, particularly around women, which is maybe like Kohberger. So he had this stigma about him. You flash forward 20 years, 25 years, he's in Silicon Valley. He has a company with 800 employees. He sees
Oh,
this woman walking down the hall, and she is the exact mirror image of what his mother looked like 25 years before. He invites her to his mansion in Los Altos Hills, where he has a cook, a butler, concierge, the whole garage full of Italian sports cars. He had arrived financially. He invites her there. He gives her Rohypnol or another sedative medication, knocks her out, strangles her, and dismembers her.
oh my God.
So he
Well, wait,
has
did he have sex with her before he
no.
dismembered?
No, no. Sex wasn't part of it. So he had this traumatic amnesia concerning the real reason that he did it, which is the reason that the judge ordered me to see him. As we got back into his childhood, and he drifted back to the point where his mother smashed him in the face with this hot iron, he has all these remembrances come pouring forth, that he remembers what happened. And when he saw Sharon at the company, it triggers the whole thing. The interesting thing is, after he was convicted and put uh, into actually Napa State Hospital first, because he had a successful NGI defense. When he was in Napa, his mother would visit him. On the last visit that she made to Napa State Hospital, she disappeared, and nobody knows what happened to the mother. So if he may have offed the lookalike person who was Sharon from the company that represented his mother at a younger stage. The mother comes and visits him at Napa. Napa is a huge facility. I mean, it's 100 acres of ground. The mother disappears. She never shows up, never shows back up at home.
Wow. So he killed, was her body found at Napa?
No. Just like it's like Decker. She's gone. She's disappeared. Now, who disappeared her? We don't know. This is after my intervention with him ended, which was during the trial. So we don't know what happened to the mother. We know what the connection where he paired his existing situation, which was the homicide, to the pre-existing situation, which was the mother smashing him in the face, plus 33 years of rejection. So when women would see him, they would say, "Oh, here's that weirdo. Here's that guy." So he would wear Elvis-like sunglasses to cover his weepy eye.
Hmm.
And a lot of his behavior was just overcompensatory, covering up his eye, covering up trauma that he didn't really understand.
Uh-huh.
That's
Wow.
one of the cases in Silicon Valley Confidential.
Okay, wait. So was he found guilty?
Yes.
So the
NGI. He was guilty during the trial. He had an NGI defense. The second trial, he was ruled as being insane. So he was committed to Napa State Hospital until the restoration of his sanity would happen, which to my knowledge didn't happen.
so wait, did he have one trial or two trials?
Well, you have the first trial is the guilt phase. The second trial is for the not guilty by reason of insanity.
Well, then but if he was found in the first trial, if he was found not guilty by reason of insanity,
No, the
he
first trial he was found guilty of the act of killing the Sharon.
so then he had an appeal, is that it?
No, he had the judge had to rule on insanity because he introduced insanity as a plea. So it's really a bifurcated trial.
Oh, it isn't, because it isn't always. I've done a lot of those kinds of trials, not guilty by
Yeah,
reason of insanity, and usually it's all in the same trial. Um, but I mean, sometimes, I mean, what do you call it? The sentence, of course, is separate. But well,
yeah.
that's very interesting. I mean, so are you thinking? So what do you think happened to the mother? I mean, yes, he killed her, but do you think he had someone come, that he paid someone to come and kill her while she was visiting him?
Absolutely a possibility. I mean, this man still had a net worth of $500 or $600 million, even though he was committed as a mental patient until restoration could be achieved. So anything was possible. My point is that this is just kind of a continuation of the motivational pattern that he had going into the
Hmm.
original murder.
Yes. Yes.
That he hated her during the interview, even in the trailer. The reenactment is that when he saw a picture of a woman that was responding to a thematic apperception test, he saw his mother. He saw that she was, "That's my mother. I hate her. I want her eliminated. I want her dead."
Did he ever tell you what she said to him, or he had said, that made her throw the iron at him?
Oh, it was some minor thing, like he had spilled one of her drinks. She was drinking scotch or something at the time.
Uh-huh.
So he spilled her drink. She refilled her glass, put the glass back on the bar that's shown in the trailer, put the glass back on the bar. She's ironing. She picks up the iron with her right hand and she smacks him in the cheek.
Wow. And how old was he?
8,
Huh. Wow.
8 years old.
That's really,
Father very successful. Father was a doctor. Allowed the mother to drift into this this schizophrenic situation allowed her to continue to drink, to be out of control, to not be able to manage her son or her own life, and bang, this is what happens.
How sad. They could have had. Well, I'm going to read what?
Yes, very sad case.
Yes. Um, so I'm going to mention a couple of the books. We don't really have time to go into it very much, but I know the one, your latest one, right? Your most recent one is Psychological DNA, a cold case analysis of who killed Robert F. Kennedy.
Yes.
Do you want to say a couple of words about that?
Sure. Yeah. My major professor at Berkeley was Bernard Diamond, and he was the chief psychiatrist on the Sirhan case. So he was also my mentor at Berkeley. So I saw a lot of the psychological testing, in particular, concerning Sirhan's mental status at the time of the crime. The prosecution entered into evidence certain kinds of information that should never have been entered in the case, such as his diary that was obtained through an illegal search and seizure process. The most salient diagnosis at the time would have been multiple personality disorder. Dr. Diamond felt kind of reluctant to go all the way with a dissociative identity disorder situation because there was so much controversy concerning the MTD, the multiple personality disorder at the time, that he felt that the jury would be overly psychobabbled and wouldn't understand it. So his major goal was to get the charge dropped to second-degree murder, so he wouldn't be eligible for the death sentence.
So what is your
but that didn't happen, and then the information concerning his multiple personality came out during the trial with two other doctors that verified that he had a dissociative reaction, that there was a second personality. Even Robert F. Kennedy Jr. 3 years ago interviewed Sirhan in the Donovan Center in San Diego, and he claimed that he didn't fire the fatal bullet that killed his father. My contention to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has my book. My contention is that the personality that he was interviewing wasn't the personality who assassinated his father. It was the ordinary, undifferentiated personality, not the split off personality that he developed years before, starting when he still lived in Palestine.
That's really interesting. So did he believe you? Did he understand it?
He's been pretty busy with health and human services. He's on a treadmill working for the Trump administration. So, yeah, I'm sure
that's a very interesting, very interesting hypothesis that you brought up to him. I mean, that's
yeah, he's quoted in the book, and I'd be glad to send you a copy too if get your address.
Sure. Yes, because I think he has to process that a little bit. Like, would he rather think that he didn't do it, or that he did do it and it was his a different personality?
That's exactly right. That's right, and it is kind of a reach to grasp that. But I think once he goes through the arguments that I make in the book, supplied with the interviews from people when he was on death row at San Quentin, that it's pretty obvious that he did have this personality type. Dr. Dan Brown from Harvard interviewed him for almost 10 years. Wow. And his definitive information concerning his being able to switch personalities is pretty apparent.
Well, we need to, this is sort of, we've come to the end of our time. We've come to the end of our time. Yes, I was just going to say, we've come to the end of our session. So I'll see you next week.
I feel much better. Can I come every 4 days.
Sure. And well, let me just give out the your website address so people can look for themselves at the other books that you've written. John C. Brady, BRADY.com. JohnCBrady.com. So check out his other books. I admire you. You're cheaper by the dozen. You're turning them out really, really I don't really quickly. I don't mean it to sound like, like they're not masterpieces on their own, but I'm impressed with how many books that you've written.
Oh, thank you. As I said, I'll send you one,
Sure.
and we continue the conversation, at a later date, because I respect your work. I know your reputation, and it's if you were up here, you and I could consult on especially medication issues with some of these patients, because some of the psychiatrists that I consult with up here are not really up to speed with the kind of training that you've had.
Well, thank you. And I'll just end with this. I'm one of the few psychiatrists, and I'm sure you know this. I'm one of the few psychiatrists who are not pill pushers, who have not
Good.
given in and surrendered to the insurance companies and become pill pushers. I
Yeah.
make any
Yeah.
patient who wants to see me, I make them come for therapy at least once a week. And if they need medication, of course, I also give them medication. But I don't do these med visit things that most psychiatrists are doing these days. You know.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I've had patients who were prisoners who were in Chowchilla State Hospital, for example, for women that told me after their release that they had more access to speed type drugs,
Mhm.
Strattera, Adderall, Ritalin, when they were in Chowchilla than they ever had when they were on the streets of San Jose. It's
Okay. Yes, I agree with you. I know what you're talking about. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Brady. I wish you lots of success, continued success. And thank you all for listening. You've been listening to Dr. Carole's Couch, and I'm your psychiatrist host, Dr. Carole Lieberman.
thank thank you, Dr. Lieberman.